All right. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Just put in a yes in the chat. All right. Okay. So let me just quickly introduce myself to you all. My name is Purva Bhutodia. I've been working in the GI industry for the last 7 years. Most of my work predominantly has been on Excel. And for today's session, the way we've planned it over the next two classes, today is going to be very basic, a simple sum, freezing cell. You all must have like gone through the formulas that we've planned for today. So today it's going to be very simple. In the next class, we're going to notch the things up a level. Next, uh, for today, I've prepared an Excel. I'll be solving this Excel with you. So once I am done with the thing, I expect you guys to do that. And if you have any problems, just put those things in the chat and we'll cater to it. All right? All right, let's start. Let's start with a new Excel. This is typically how a new Excel sheet looks. A sheet in itself is called a worksheet. Few sheets together is called a workbook. These are columns, these are rows. Columns are represented with alphabets. You can see A, B, C, D, E. And these are the rows. Rows are numeric. All these little squares that you see are called cells. And the cells that we are currently in is called an active cell. So right now you can see we are in the cell C5. Think of it like an address to the Excel cell. So right now we are in C5. When I select a few cells together, it's called a range. How is a range defined? From right top, that's C2 to G13. So this range will be called C2 to G13. So this was a quick introduction of what a spreadsheet looks like. All of these are called tabs. So that's home tab, insert tab, page layout tab. This is called the ribbon. This area that I'm currently hovering the cursor over is called a ribbon. And over in a ribbon, you'll see different sections. For example, this one is themes, this one is page setup. And there's more in each of these categories. The major ones are fixed here. And the other information you can get by pressing on the little arrow at the end of each section. All right. Let's quickly start with making a data set. All right. Let's make a data set of the employees that our organization has. So I have 100 employees. Now, do I sit here and type up to 100? No. Excel is capable of reading patterns. So what I'll do is I'll highlight the entire thing and I'll just stretch it over. And you will see Excel is in itself populating numbers up to 100. So right now what I expect from you guys is you open up a new Excel, press on Control N if you're already in an Excel, you'll get a new sheet and then enters number from 1 to 100 in the new sheet. Once you're done, please let me know in the chat and then I'll move forward. All right, now let's enter a name of few employees that our company has. So now I have purposefully entered the spelling of Hitesh wrong here. Now, how do I edit it? One option would be to go select this cell and type it again. But over here, I already had HITSH written correctly. So what I do is I get in the cell. I move to this position, I enter a E, enter. So that's the difference between being on a cell and in a cell. Right now, I am on cell B9. And once I double click on it, I am in the cell. So that way, when you're on a cell, you work on the entire cell from start. But when you're in the cell, you modify the contents of the cell that are already in it. All right. So similarly, 12 employees. Now let's put in the number of hours they worked today. And their hourly wage is, let's say, 100 rupees. Now, do I sit in and type 100 over and over again 12 times? No. I click on the little green box at the end and I scroll it down. I get 100 across everywhere. Now, the next task is to calculate the payout, which will be the number of hours worked times the 100, the hourly wage. But the thing is, right now, I have not given any headers, no headings to my data. So what we'll do is we'll insert a line. How do we insert a line? We right click on one, we press on insert, and you'll find a row gets added. Now, in cell A1, I'll write down serial number, name, hours worked, and hourly rate. Now you'll see that we are not able to see the hours worked cell completely. We'll have to expand the width of the column. How do we do that? We click between C and D. If you see here the line that bifurcates C and D, we'll click over it, it expands. And also the way we usually present an Excel, we can bold this thing, right? How do we bold it? We highlight the entire selection and we click on this feature here, Control B. Over in class today, I won't be sharing a lot of quick share buttons that we can use. This over time, when you practice Excel, you'll get the hang of it. That okay, once I highlight and I press Control plus B, it gets bold. So it's easier that ways. But for now, the feature to bold is here. And once you hover your cell over this B column, you'll see Excel itself is telling you press Control B if you want this done. All right. And now let's see if we weren't able to see these two cells together. So we can do this exercise for the entire data set all in one go. We highlight the entire column and we click on it together. You'll see the entire thing got highlighted. All right. Now, if I want to put in a border, I select the entire thing. I click on borders, all borders. Here, you'll see I've added borders to the entire thing. Now, the next thing that we had planned was total payout, which will be hours worked into the hourly rate. And then do I type in C3 times D3 again? Tell me. All right, I'll zoom. All right, can anyone in chat? Oh, all right, I already see a no. We simply select this formula and drag it. And over here, you will see we've got 7 times 100 should be 700, and we've got that. Now, if I want to see what cells it is using, I simply press F2 over that cell. You'll see C3 times D3. Escape to get out of it. Let's check this one. F2, C7 times D7, and escape to get out of it. Now I would want the same format for the column E also, the one that we're having for D. So we highlight column D. This little thing here is called Format Painter. You select what you want, you pick its format, and then when you click over G, you'll see the entire G column has the same format. All right. Control Z helps us undo. You can note this down. Control Z is undo. Now, I know tax does not work that ways, but for now, let's just assume the tax rate is 10%. I said 10%, but I've written here 0.1. I can change the format of the contents of the cell using this little box here. I know it's a percentage, so I click over percentage and you'll see I get a nice little percent at the end of my 10. Okay. The tax deducted will be whatever amount we are paying times 10%. Let's say that's the tax amount. So 600 times 10% will be the tax deducted. All right, I'll copy the format for this as well. Now, let me drag this. Something went wrong. 700 times 10% should have been 70, but we are getting a 0. What's wrong? How do I inspect? I click on F2. What is happening here is when I entered 600 times 10%, the command that I gave Excel was, okay, you have to multiply two cells. Which two cells? One to the left, and the second one is right, two to your right, and one up. So the next time it followed my instruction, it followed the formula, it multiplied one to the left, which was 700, correct? Then two to the right and one up. So this cell H2 became its reference cell. So over here, I'll introduce to you the concept of freezing cells. What do I mean by freezing cells? Over here, H1 is the cell that has to remain constant across all formulas, across all action cells. So I'll add in a dollar sign for H and a dollar sign for 1. And let's see what does this do. If I click F2 now, H1 remains constant, only the one cell to the left is changing. Understood? And if anyone wants me to like redo this thing again, we'll do it again. All right. Quickly, I want you guys to make enter data the way I have done, and we'll do one more. Let's say a deduction of 10 rupees was allowed. So now we'll calculate the tax after deduction. Everybody was allowed a deduction of 10 rupees. So can anyone tell me what the formula for cell G2 will be? All right. We'll discuss tax deducted. All right, because if one more thing before I cover that, I have to increase the width of F column by too much if I want tax deducted before deduction to fit in. So what I'll do is I'll quickly click over wrap text. System. All right, and I'll use the format painter here. All right, so the tax deducted for simplicity, we've assumed whatever payout we are giving them, 10% of that will be deducted as tax. So simply what we want to do is 600 times 10%. So we put in equal to, select this cell, 600 times 10%. Then you click on enter, you'll find 600 times 10% as 60. Now, if I drag it, I'm getting a 7,000 here. Why? Because I did not freeze the cell I1. What they're giving me is 700 times 10. So because I have to freeze the cell I1, I will put in a dollar sign here and a dollar sign here. In that way, we can freeze that cell. So now when I Now, if I enter into the cell by clicking F2, I'll see everywhere it's 300 times 10%. All right. So Yashika is saying the formula is going to be F2 minus I2, and I'm freezing I2. Now, F2 minus I2, perfect. Now, every time whenever I have to freeze a cell, I don't have to go in that cell and click on dollar sign over and over again. There's a shortcut to it. You simply press F4 to do that. Once I click F4, I automatically get the dollar signs for that cell, and then I click enter, and here I get a 50. Then I stretch it down, I get the values, I put a nice little border to all the cells. All right, the feature I was talking about, wrap text, it looks different in all our systems. In this particular system, this is the shortcut that helps us do that. You'll see for all these cells, the text is written only in one line. Over here, wrap text will help us put in data in multiple rows in one cell itself. All right. So what we've done right now is built a very simple basic Excel files. We've learned how to select data, let Excel understand the pattern and stretch it out. We've learned how to the difference between being in a cell and on a cell. When you're on a cell, this one. All right. So what we did, we said that, okay, 10% tax will be deducted. And right now we are assuming the tax deducted, we are giving them an allowance of 10 rupees extra. So we have to reduce 10 from the amount. So it's going to be 60 minus 10. If I drag it, now what's wrong here? 70 and 70, ideally it should have been 60. What's wrong? What's wrong? We'll have to click F2 to see what the Excel is doing right now. So we have to freeze the cell I2. So that we do when we first entering the formula, right? Use dollar signs. So now for instead of entering the cell again and writing dollars here, what I'll simply do is I'll press F4. The dollar signs come in automatically. I press on enter and I drag this entire thing. All right. So we've learned how we can format the text a little. We've added borders to our data set. We've bold headings. We've wrapped text, and we've also learned how to freeze cells. Anything that you want me to repeat?
Ma'am, do we get a recording of this class?
I am not sure. I'll have to ask. Give us 2 minutes. We'll just make sure that that happens. All right. Anything that you want me to redo? And also, Kaushal, am I visible now? All right. So I am assuming this year is done. Now, I'm assuming all of you already know how to save a file. You click on file. I'm sorry, you won't be getting a recording of this session. You click on save as, then anywhere on the desktop you know how to save a file. Now, all right. You select the data over here. And there are different options. If you want all borders, you can go for all borders. Uh, all right. Now, for today's session, we'll be going through the next 8 sheets, in which I'm assuming all of you already have it. If not, please let us know. We'll forward it. All right. I'll share the shortcuts also. So then borders is Alt H B A. Borders all. Why did I say that over time you'll get the hang of it? Because let's say once I press Alt, it will give me options on the screen. I know I have to go in the Home tab. So I'll press H. Next, I want to go to the border section. You'll see the B coming up. So B, and then the all borders is A. So A. So the shortcut for all borders is Alt HBA. Now there are so many possible options. Let's say if I decided to go only with outside borders or no borders, I'll have to memorize HBN. Now, once you start working over the years, I know I prefer my Excel sheets to have borders. So I have over time memorized Alt HBA. But somebody can be liking the Excel in this way where they want outside borders only. So they'll have to memorize Alt H B S. All right. So the general ones I'll do, the specific ones I'll ignore. Bold is by highlighting and control B. So it was bold earlier, so it got unbold, now bold again. And also control C, control V, although it's obvious, but I'll still do it. I've written down this formula. I'll press control C together, scroll down and control V. All right. When you're already in an Excel sheet and you want to open a new workbook altogether, you press Control N and you get a new workbook. All right. Now moving to the Excel class 1 file that you already have received. Now I want all of you to be on cell E12. Now what happens when I click on the arrow key down? It moves one cell down. Now let's say there are 10,000 or 1 lakh entries in my data table. How do I reach to the end of it? I press control and down. Try that. If I have to copy this column, monthly salary fixed to a new Excel, this is my result or whatever. For any reason, I have to copy this. How do I copy it? Press Control, Shift, and down together. So basically, write this down somewhere. Shift selects. So if I just press Shift and just the cursor down, the arrow key down, sorry, it will select one cell at a time. And if I press Control as well, I go down to the last cell in my column and the entire thing is highlighted. Is this clear? All right. So shift selects and control gets you to the last of whatever you are selecting, whatever direction you want to move in. So let's say I am in this cell E12 and I press control and the right, I just move from here to there. And what if I want to copy the data of employee 1177, that's the first entry with the headings. I press control, shift, right, and I leave the control button and one down. Are all of you able to do this? I just want you to highlight what I've just now highlighted without using your cursor. All right, I'll say that again. This is the part that I want to highlight. What do I do? Shift selects. So shift is going to be a constant. Now, when I press control and right, this thing should get highlighted. And then I leave the control and down. Why did I leave the control here? Because if I press the control and I click down, the entire thing will get selected. Because control will move to the end of the direction that we're moving in. So, done. Is anybody facing any troubles with this? All right. In case if anybody is, please drop in a message in the chat and we'll take care of it. All right. So I'll tell you what formatting can do. This was a data set when we entered it. Would you want your data set to look like this or to look like this? Once you're working, you would want data to be, the cells to be colored, formatted properly. So this is where this entire thing will help us. You can color a cell using this. You can change the color of text using this. You can add borders. Over here, if you can see, I've decreased the size of column 9. All right. So all of this can be done using the format. The more you use Excel, the more easier it will become over time for you. You can change things from to italics and undo it. All right. Okay, now let's start with a few functions. The first one that we're going to do is sum. It's a simple one. Right now, I have a data of all the employees that my organization has. I've mentioned their employee code, the department they are in, the position they're working in, the part of their monthly salary that's fixed, that is variable, that contact number, and their hometown. Now, if I ask you, okay, what is the total monthly fixed salary that you pay? So what we do is we put in an equal to in cell E36. We type in SUM. We open the brackets. Then we select the range that we want to add. We close the brackets and we press on enter. Then I would want the answer to be in bold for it to differentiate between the entries. And because this is a result, I would want it to look a little different. So I am adding bold to it. Done, everybody?
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I'm not unable to edit.
हाँ यस मैम सेम। और ये जो गूगल शीट्स में ओपन है फाइल वो एक्सेल में भी डाउनलोड होके ओपन नहीं हो रही है।
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a second. You tried downloading and it's not editable. Is that the
हाँ
case for
मेरे को
everyone?
डिस्क्रिप्शन ही नहीं आ रहा है, आई डोंट नो व्हाई।
Is
Yes,
that the case
ma'am.
for everyone?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
They're saying that they've downloaded it. Have you all downloaded it? All right, Dia here has a suggestion. Make a copy for that file and then use it. Huh. All right. All right, we'll wait for all of you to get on board. So,
Ma'am, so like how to do?
how to download a file? You're using what? You got it on Gmail? Can you
Ma'am,
see
like
the
Google
attachment?
form something.
Google Forms. Uh, can you share your screen? Can you share your screen, Riddhi?
Ma'am, I'm trying.
All right.
Ma'am, there's a request. Actually, I needed a recording because it's difficult to follow up with you.
See. All right. We'll
Ma'am,
get a recording of it. Won't be a problem. I just now confirmed it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Ria here has sent a link to the Excel file. Once I click on it, left top you'll find file. Click on download Microsoft Excel, and then you just save the file as whatever you want and then click on save. I think you'll be able to open it. Yes. Enable editing. Click on enable editing, the strip in the yellow on the top. Hello? Am I audible?
ma'am, just a second.
All right.
Yes, ma'am, done.
All
Thank you so
right.
much.
All right. Okay. Hmm? So we were starting with sheet 1 where we learned these many formulas. This I've mentioned in the top left of the sheet. All right. The first thing that we were doing was sum. How do we put in the sum? For any function, we start with an equal to sign. Then we put in sum, bracket open, and then we highlight the range that we want to add. Bracket closed, enter. Now, sum is one of the most used functions in Excel, and that is why you'll see there are other ways to do sum as well. One is alt equal to. I want you to erase what's right now in cell E36. Go to E36, press on delete, and this time press Alt and equal to together. You're still getting the sum as 1 lakh, 15,77,500. Also, there's one more way. You empty the cell E36. On the right top, you'll see the sigma sign. Over here, sum. So that is another way. So over time, you'll realize what you're comfortable with. For me, it's alt equal to, simple, and enter. Okay. The next task that they've asked us to do is find the monthly salary, the cumulative monthly salary that's variable. So that we are going to find out in cell F36. Again, a simple alt equal to. And enter. Or what we could have done is we could have stretched the formula from E36 to F36. That's another way to do it. Let's say here, instead of just two columns that had amounts data, we had 100. Are you going to go down, put in alt equal to at the end of each cell, at the end of each column of data? No. What you'll do is you'll write down alt equal to 1 and then you'll simply drag it. Done. All right. Next is they want us to add in another column to the data, that is monthly total payout. That is the sum of monthly salary fixed and monthly salary variable. How do we do that? We select the column G, we right click and we insert a column. Let's name it total monthly payout. Now this is the sum of column E and column F. So basically E12 plus F12. Now again we have multiple ways of doing this. We could simply put in equal to this plus this, right? The second option could be using the function sum, and then this, or the third one that we just learned, alt equal to. So anything that you're comfortable with. A simple E12 plus F12 is also good. But whenever you're using Excel, think of it in this way. What if I get a large data set? What if I had to add things from column B to Z? Will I sit here and do this plus this plus this plus this? No. All of this E12 plus F12, entering it manually will only make sense when you have just one or two columns to add. Get in the habit of using the function sum. That ways you can add as many columns as you want quickly. That coupled with the control shift option that we had learned. All right. You click on G, right click, insert. All right. So E12 plus F12, again, we are going to stretch the formula to the end of a data set. And I'm going to drag the sum for this column as well. All of you should be getting an amount of 19,37,500. Done. If anyone is facing any troubles, do put it in the chat. Otherwise, I won't be able to help you out. So we've right now done sum and insert. Now they want some other data also, a summary of this data set from us. They want what is the total monthly payout towards the actuarial department alone, towards the accounts department, towards the IT department, so and so forth for HR department, and then the total. Department wise, what's the total payout? Now, right now, I don't want the contact number and hometown data on my sheet. It's blocking my view. It's unnecessary data. So what I do is I highlight HIJ. I again right click and you'll see the option of hide. I press on it. So the data is here. We have not deleted it, but it's just out of our view for now. So that's hide. Now let's say in this particular data set, we only had 4 departments. So I was able to type it down. What if there are thousands of entries of something? Do I sit here and manually type them out? No. If there's anything repetitive or manual that you have to do in Excel, no, there has to be a shortcut to it. Even if we don't discuss those things in this class, but just Google things. If there's anything repetitive that you're doing in Excel, then you're doing it wrong. There has to be a smaller way to do it. Now, how do I do that? I select all the entries, all the rows that has the department IDs. I copy it with Control C. And then I'll just paste it somewhere with a Control V. Now in the data tab, you'll find remove duplicates. This one's a new. All right, this cell will look a little different for everyone, but in the data tab, you'll find remove duplicates. So once I click on that, a pop-up will appear. I check on yes, my data has a header. Okay. And the list of all the unique items that are there in that column will remain, and the repeated items are out of the picture.
Ma'am, can you repeat this?
All right. Whenever there's a list of the department or anything for that matter, whenever there's a list and we just want the list, the items that are unique in this list. For example, in this list, there's actuarial, there's accounts, there's IT, and there's HR. Now, if I ask you, okay, what's unique? Do I sit here and type in actuarial, accounts, IT, and HR? No. What I do is I highlight this thing, the entire column. I copy it, Control C. I paste it. All right. And in the data tab, you'll find something that looks like this. This will be different in every laptop, but just hover over the cells a little and you'll find remove duplicates, the option of remove duplicates. Once it will look different. I had trouble finding in this system because I'm used to something else. You'll find it. 1 second, I'll help you out. All right, bring your laptop here quickly. And then once I click on OK, there's this pop-up that said 20 duplicate values found and removed, 4 unique values remained. As we had discussed, there were 4 departments. Oh, because I'll go a little slow, Sunny. All right. Were all of you able to get the unique list of all the departments in a company? Anyone, any trouble? I'm assuming it's a no. All right. So that is how I got the list of all these items here. Then I wrote down total so that we can give a summary of the department. Whenever I give a data, all right, department wise, this is the total monthly payout. I add in a column for total as well for completeness. Now, task in hand is to give the total monthly payout department wise. So basically, we have to add certain things equal to sum, bracket open, and then what I'll do is I'll see, okay, actuarial is from E12 to E18. I will highlight this here and then enter. I'm getting 6,25,000. Does anyone think this is a smart way of doing it?
No.
No, because right now the way I have made this data, actuarial is clean little 7, 8 people, accounts is good 10 people, and they're all in order. So it is possible for me to sit here and do this for now. Okay, this accounts from here. But in reality, you'll find data where entries could be of actuarial accounts, IT, HR, actuarial accounts, IT. Do we then sit down and add in one cell at a time? No. For that, there's a function called sumif. And as the name sounds, we are telling Excel to add if a particular cell meets a particular criteria. Understood? The function is called sumif. We are telling Excel, okay, from this range, you add all the items if a particular criteria is met. Criteria right now is the department should be actuarial or the department should be accounts. So let's start with an equal to, type in sum if bracket open. Now Excel also helps us in the sense that it tells us, okay, range. First you have to enter the range, then the criteria, and then the range for which the sum you want. Now range. Range is this, the department. C12 to C35. Comma, what is the criteria? The criteria we've mentioned in our table, it's actuarial. L12. And then again comma. Now this time we have to tell them the column of which we want the sum of. So that's column G. So we highlight total monthly payout from here. And we close the brackets. Press enter. Should be 6,25,000 for everyone. Now, can anyone tell me what is it that I did wrong right now? All right, let's see. I'll simply just drag the formula down for all the departments.
Ma'am, we did not freeze the cells.
I did not freeze the cells. Once I click on F2, you'll see the range of sum is also shifting down. So that's wrong. So what are the columns that we have to freeze? We had 3 points, 2 ranges and 1 cell. What should I freeze? Which range? So one is C12 to C35. So we freeze C12 and C35 both. And the next one is, all right, let's just freeze this and see what happens. Or click on F4. You select uh, the cell number, and then click on F4. All right, we've right now frozen the department column C12 to C35. F4. Now we'll drag this. Now what is happening here? We can see it by pressing F2. What's wrong? The sum range. The criteria is still accounts. It should come down. But the sum range should not. It should still be from G12 to G35. But because I did not freeze those cells, it is coming down when I'm dragging the formula. So that was wrong as well. I'll have to freeze the sum range as well. Now let's drag it and see. F2. Okay. So the first thing is the range. Range should be from 12 to 35. So it stays there. Next is L13. That's a criteria. Ideally, when in the left we've mentioned the heading as accounts, we would want the sum of accounts. So that should move. So that is why we did not freeze that. And the next is this part here is for the sum range, the column for which we want the sum. So then again, that should remain fixed. It should be from G12 to G35, and that is the reason that we fixed it. All right. So we just drag the formula, and for the sake of completion, I'll give in the total payout as well. Now, center aligned, center aligned, center aligned. This one here is right aligned. Over here, alignment, center alignment, and then I would also want total and this total to be in bold. So I highlight the two cells and press Ctrl B. Completed. Done. Done. All right. So the formula, the function that we just learned was sumif. Now, what if somebody is needy and they add more conditions? Now, this time they not only want the department wise monthly payout, but they would also want to know, okay, how much are in total are the actuarial managers getting? How much are actuarial associates getting? So the conditions have increased. Yes or no? This time, if they're asking me the total monthly payout, I using sum if we were able to put in one criteria. Now the criterias have increased. We are moving to sum ifs now. Sum ifs allows us to put in multiple criterias that need to be met before Excel adds certain cells for us. All right. SUMIFS. Let's begin with it. Now you'll see Excel is telling me first that you put in the sum range first. The sum range is the column that we want to add. The values whose total we want first. So G12 to G35. And now we know we have to freeze it. So at the time of entering, if you press an F4, you don't have to do it separately for G12 and G35. You highlight the range and you press F4, both G12 to G35. That is, the entire range gets freezed together. Then, comma. Next, they want the criteria range 1. Let's say the criteria range 1 is the department. So we go and we highlight the criteria range 1. C12 to C35 in our case, and we know we have to freeze it. So F4, comma, what's the criteria 1 for this cell? It's the actuarial department, comma, criteria range 2. The next one is the position. We highlight this range, D12 to D35. We know we have to freeze it, so we press F4. And what's the criteria for this cell? It is cell M20. And then we close the brackets. Press enter. Let's just quickly check actuarial managers 370. So these three employees are actuarial managers and their total is 370. Over here, you will see in this bar, you get simple mathematical operations done for you. So over here right now, I have sum, max, min, count, and average. In case you can't see it, you simply right click on this bar and you will see these options of average, count. You select them and you'll find min, max, sum, count, average. They're readily available. All right. Does anyone want me to discuss the sumif, the input to the sumifs syntax once again?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We start with sumifs. When do we use sumifs? When we want Excel to add few values only when certain criterias are met. S, multiple. For a single criteria, we had used sum if. Now over here, we want the sum of the monthly payout when the department is actuarial and the position is manager. So there are two conditions that need to be met. One, department actuarial. Second, position, manager, or whatever. All right. So sum ifs. SUMIFS bracket open. Now, Excel is telling me first you provide me with the range that you want the sum of. That's the sum range. So that's column G. So we highlight G12 to G35. We know we have to freeze it. So we press F4. Now, when you're entering the data and if you press F4 at that point of time, the entire range gets frozen together. Then you press comma. What is next that it is asking me to feed in? It's asking me to tell me, okay, what's your criteria range? Criteria range is the department. I know I have to freeze it, so F4. Next, in the criteria range, what is the criteria that we are looking for in this particular cell? We are wanting department to be actuarial, so we select L20. Next, criteria range 2. That's the position. So I highlight D12 to D35. I freeze it, comma. And what's the criteria for this particular cell? It is whatever is written in M20. And then I close the brackets. See what's different? G12 to G35 frozen, comma, C12 to C35 frozen, comma, L20, comma, D12 to D35 frozen, comma, M20. Bring your laptop here. Did you put in some ifs? IFS? Anyone facing any trouble? I'll be happy to go over it one more time. Then we drag the formula, and for the sake of completeness, alt equal to total, enter, center aligned, and highlight the two cells and bold. Now also, how did I make this table of department position and all the unique entries? Over here, why did not I type in HR manager, I'm sorry, HR intern or IT associate is there. All right, only HR intern is missing. Did I check the entire list and then typed it down? No. I had used the remove duplicates formula, the function here as well. I highlighted the two, copied it, pasted it, again, data, remove duplicates, okay. And it gave me the list of unique combinations in actuarial and manager. The last time we did this with the department column alone, we were left with 4 entries only. That was actuarial, accounts, IT, and HR. But when we do remove duplicates over 2 or more columns, what it is looking for is unique combinations across. So it is treating actuarial manager as different from actuarial associate. All right, if I just copy paste the department again and then do a remove duplicates, how many items unique values should be left? Just 4. So that is remove duplicate, sum and sumifs. And we've already gone over the concept of how to freeze cells. Understood? Anything in this sheet that you want me to go over one more time? Anything? Anyone? Feel free to type in a yes. All right, then we move to sheet 2. In this sheet, now all the sheets, once you've got the hang of how to input a formula, how to freeze cells, you just have to know what the syntax of each function is. It's as simple as that. Excel is one of the most user-friendly tools that you'll find. So now let's say I want to delete the contact. I have to share this data with some third party and I cannot be sharing the contact numbers. I want to delete the contact number and hometown. Simple, highlight the 2 columns, click on right click, delete, and it's gone. And now what if I deleted this by mistake? Control Z. That's the undo cell for you. Now, this third party wants me to tell me, okay, what are the total number of employees that your company has? So what's the formula for that? It's a simple count. COUNT, bracket open. And then I could just highlight the employee code, bracket closed, enter. 24 employees. Now let's try, instead of selecting the employee code, what if I had selected the department? Ideally, the count is 24. It should return me a 24, but it is returning me a 0. Why? Because count is capable of counting only numbers and dates. If you wanted to count text, you have to put in count A. And then I'm getting a 24. So count is for numbers and dates only. And if you want to count text, you put in count A. All right. At the end of this data set, they've asked us to give in the average values across all entries. So a simple average, AVERAGE, bracket open. We select the range, bracket closed, enter, and then we can drag it. So that's average. Done, everyone? in cell E20, E36, by putting in the simple formula is equal to average and then selecting the range, we get the average. Also, let's just quickly check whether what we've done is right or wrong. We highlight the range and we see the average is 65729, and that is what we're getting in this cell as well. All right. Now, in the previous sheet, we had calculated the total monthly payout department wise. Now they want to know what is the average salary of that monthly payout of that department. So how do we do that? We calculate the total monthly payout and the number of employees, and then we divide the two. So this is a case of count if. Count if the department is actuarial. So count if bracket open. Now what's the range? We've already calculated the total monthly payout. I brought that from the previous sheet. You already know how to do it. This time, the actuarial department on a monthly basis draws a salary of 6,25,000. But that is across 5 individuals, right? So we would want the count of employees to come in here as 5, and then we can simply calculate the average as 6,25,000 divided by 5. So now we want Excel to count if the department is actuarial. So it's a case of Countif. Now first the range. The range again is department. We freeze it with F4, comma. The criteria for this particular cell is actuarial. We select it, we close the bracket, enter. Seven individuals from the actuarial department. We drag the formula, total 24 as expected. Over here, I'm simultaneously checking whether my input has been correct or not. The total should have been 24. I'm getting a 24. That means the Excel did not miss any cells. And let me also just check my formula. The range is correct. It is from C12 to C35 as it should be. It's not going down. Perfect. Done. Now the average payout will be what? 6,25,000 divided by 7. Enter. Could I repeat the average part? All right. The task in hand right now is to see on an average how much does an individual from the actuarial department earns. So what we've done is we've calculated using sumif the total monthly payout for the actuarial department. Then I need to divide it by the number of employees in the department. For that, we will have to take out the count. Now, this is not a simple count like this one, as in where we had asked it to calculate the count across all entries. This time we want it to count that entry only if the department is actuarial. So this is a case of count if the department is actuarial. So we put in count if bracket open, the range, this is the range, we freeze it, comma, I15, that's the criteria that we are looking for in that range. Excel bracket closed, enter. Now what is Excel doing? In the range C12 to C35, it is looking for the item HR. And it is finding the item HR 4 times, so it is giving me a count of 4. So that is how count if works. Count the entry only if this criteria is met. And the average is a simple total monthly payout divided by count of employees. Enter. 89,000. I see extra decimal places here. How do I remove it? Using this feature here. I drag it down, and the last item is always bold because it is for totals. Understood?
Ma'am, shouldn't we change the formula in the last cell of the average payout? Because we just dragged it. It's not the
Because
sum.
we were doing total monthly payout by count of employees. If you are asking for this one, we did change the formula from Countif to sum. But for this one, it's the average payout, where we are calculating the average payout as the sum of monthly payout divided by count of employees. Is that your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All right. Now, what we did here was first we calculated the monthly payout using sumifs for actuarial. Then we did it when we found out the count using Countif. Now, repetitive work, Excel gave us average if. It is saying that I'll calculate the average if those criterias are met. You don't have to calculate first the sum and then you have to find the count and then you divide it to get to an 89286 value. I'll do that for you. Just tell me what's your range, what's your criteria, and the range for which you want the average. So, first they're asking me to put in the range. The range is the department. Next, what's your criteria? Criteria is actuarial. And next, it is asking me to put in the average range. So I want the average of this range. So I select this and I close the brackets. I put in an enter. Now I drag it. What's wrong? It isn't wrong, but the input I did was wrong. Can anyone tell me? I got the answer correct by fluke. Freezing the cells. Right now it worked because in the initial few entries, in the first entry wasn't for accounts. Had it been for accounts, I'll just quickly change this data cell here to accounts and you'll see the mismatch. Why did this happen? Because when I input the formula for average, I did not freeze it. So when Excel is now calculating the average for accounts, it does not have the first entry in its feed file. It's only considering this data set, data from here onwards. So I will have to freeze the range, and when I freeze the range afterwards, I'll have to freeze C12, C35, G12, and G35. I'll show you the difference. Average if range. If at the time of input, I'm sure that I have to freeze it. Now, once I click F4, the entire range gets frozen together. So it's better to do it as in when you're writing the formula. Will this give me, okay, let's see what happens if I drag it up until here. Why is it not working? Because what Excel is doing right now, it is looking for the word total in column C. It won't find it there. So average if will only work if the criteria that you've set out in your formula is in the range. So a simple average will do because we're calculating the average across all cells. Done, everyone?
Ma'am, can you show once again the formula?
For average ifs?
Yes.
All right. First, we'll feed in the range. Now the criteria that we are looking for in that range. So first we had selected C12 to C35. That was the range in which we were looking for the criteria I-15, in which we were looking for actuarial. And once those line items are identified, we want you to find the average of G12 to G35. That's the average range.
Okay, ma'am, got it. Thank you.
All right. Yes? Normal average. Yeah. So if I simply give you this data and I ask you, okay, on an average, how much does an individual from the actuarial department earn? Let me just quickly filter out the entries for actuarial department only. How do we do it? Okay, they're drawing a salary of 6,25,000 in total and across 7 people. So 6,25,000 divided by 7, 89285. First of all, I taught you how to calculate the average by first principles. You calculate the total amount of salary drawn by them, and then 7 people are drawing a total of 6,25,000. So on an average, the individual from actuarial department is earning 89,286. Got it? F2, 6,25,000 divided by 7. Yes, Sunny, tell me.
Ma'am, in the average payout section, in the total section, I'm getting inconsistent formula.
Inconsistent formula. Over which cell?
L18, L19.
L19. All right. Excel is doing its job correctly. That means what is happening in the two cells next to it? In J19, we are adding J15 to J18. In K19, you'll see we are adding K15 to K18, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And in L19, we are doing something else. So as I told you earlier, Excel is capable of understanding patterns. According to Excel, in the columns, in the two columns next to it, you were calculating the sum of a set range. This time you've done something different. So it's just giving you a warning. Please check if it's okay. And if it's okay, you can just ignore the error message. Now, in your case, particularly, just drag this 24 like this to this cell. You'll see that the error goes away.
Yes, ma'am.
Because then Excel is saying, okay, अभी तक तुम ऐड करते आ रहे थे, अभी भी ऐड कर रहे हो, सब ठीक है. यहाँ पे तुमने जैसे ही कुछ डिफरेंट किया, एरर है. मतलब it's just giving you, it's highlighting that there's something different. Please check if it's okay. It won't hamper your calculation. That error will not hamper your calculation.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. Next, count of employees given. Now count the employee only if he's from the actuarial department and he's in the manager position. What do you think the formula for this will be? The function? Anyone? Over here, we went from sum to sum if there was just one criteria. And then as the number of criterias increased to 2, we went from sumif to sum ifs. Similarly, this time we'll move from average to average if and then to average ifs. And for count, we'll move from countif to countifs. So first of all, I am not going to tell you this. Somebody put in countifs and tell me what the syntax will be. Whether two criterias are actuarial and manager. Right issue, Countifs, you got it right. Excel is telling you what to do. Put it in. All right, Riya and Meghna, can you also tell me the answer that you're getting for Countifs?
Ma'am, the value of the entire column.
No, for cell uh,
First cell, we're
L20,
getting 3.
L23 should be 3. All right.
Yes, ma'am, 3.
Others, everyone, I want everyone to do this, because if you get this right, you have aced count, you've aced sum, sumif, count, countif, ifs, and also you've aced how to freeze cells. So I want everyone to get a 3 in that cell before we proceed. And if anyone is having any trouble, we'll go through all of this again, because it is a very simple and basic thing that all of us should know by the end of a little tea break that we're going to have at 1:05, 1:10.
Can we have a short go through of all formulas once? Because
All right, we can do it at the end of the class today, or do you want me to do it right away?
no, end of the class is fine.
Definitely we can do that.
Yeah.
C12 to C35. Meghna, are you getting the right answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Because the formula that you've entered is not complete. Is it? Just give me a second. Countifs. Criteria range. All right, perfect. Is anyone facing any trouble? Shibani, why L23 to L33? Shibani, are you getting the answer?
Yeah, I got the answer, but why? Let me see once.
Ma'am, she probably hasn't deleted the cells that we did, the columns.
All right, Shivani, that's a possibility. Are you entering the formula in L23, in cell L23?
I am entering the formula in N23. Yeah,
Right,
N23.
right, right. Yeah. So whoever pointed that out smart. We had deleted the mobile number and the hometown data.
Okay, yeah.
Done? Sure. Anyone facing any troubles?
Ma'am, in M19.
M19. M19?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What is your trouble?
Ma'am, my average is coming out 80521.
80521, this cell, M19.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you calculating 80521? Quickly press on F2 and tell me what the syntax is.
Average O15 to O18.
O15 to O18. All right, did you delete the hometown and mobile number columns first? Delete that so that I can understand where you are at exactly.
1 second, ma'am.
H and I, hometown and mobile numbers, you highlight the two columns, you press right click,
Yes, ma'am. I've deleted.
and then in cell M19, you have typed average O19.
Ma'am, it is coming to M15 to M18 now.
M15 to M18. Now, this isn't an Excel related doubt. What will happen if you calculate the average? Okay, you're getting 80521.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Mhm. I'll just quickly make up a new formula of why you shouldn't be averaging these together. You're basically right now calculating the average of the averages. So my 80729 is telling me the average salary of an individual across all. That's
Yes, ma'am.
80729. But what your average is telling me, okay, the average for actuarial is this much, the average for accounts is this much. Your average is calculating the average across the departments, if that makes sense to you.
Yes, ma'am.
You're understanding we are calculating the average over the raw data.
मैम एवरेज का एवरेज निकल रहा है.
एवरेज का एवरेज निकल रहा है. अगर मैं कंपनी लेवल पे एवरेज देखूंगी एक एम्प्लॉय का कितना है तो 80,729 है.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am,
Now
how will I correct it?
you rewrite over that formula. See, I'll also calculate the average. Done. I don't like it. I want to rewrite over this cell. What I can do is I go over this cell, I click on delete. It's empty.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I can rewrite. Also, in the beginning, I had mentioned when you're on a cell. Right now, I'm on a cell. And if I start typing, whatever's written in the cell gets erased and it's like a new cell right now. If you want to edit what's already written in the cell, you get in it.
Yes, ma'am.
So now instead of M15, let's say I want to do M16. If I want to make changes in the cell, I have to get in the cell. But if I have to change everything that's written in a cell, I can go delete it. Or over time, you'll realize that is an unnecessary step. I can just simply go on the cell and start typing whatever I want to.
Okay.
Let's say if I want to put in ABCD in here. So I just come to this cell, I type ABCD. I don't have to necessarily delete it because when I'm on it, whatever I'll do, it's going to get overwritten over what's already there.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. So I'm assuming all of you have calculated the Countifs, the count of employees using the Countifs function by now. Now the average payout again is going to be total monthly payout divided by the count of employees. So on an average, an actuarial manager in my company is earning a salary of 1,23,333. Now, in the first table also we had calculated the average payout using first principles. And then Excel said, no dear, I have a nice little formula that you can use and calculate the average directly. This time you'll be using average ifs. And then just use the help that Excel is already giving you. First, we have to input the average range, then the criteria range, criteria range 2, then a second criteria, and we can calculate the average payout as well using average ifs. And should be equal to the M column for everyone. Did you drag the formula? Now press on F2 to do a diagnosis of what is happening. Excel
can you-
is looking. 1 second. If I drag the formula, what is Excel doing? If there's an error, right now we are getting a div error. All right. So press on F2 to see what Excel is doing. Excel is looking for the word total in the position column and an empty cell in the department column. It's not going to find it there because we have no entry that has total written over it. All right. So we will have to calculate the average separately. All right. Yes, someone handed out. Akshita,
Yes, ma'am.
you had a doubt?
Ma'am, can you explain once again the formula of average?
All right. Average ifs. All right. If I'm being honest with you, for some of the formulas, even I will not be able to do an input without Excel telling me what needs to be fed in first and what needs to be fed in last. I know I have to select the department range from the table and then actuarial cell I-23 from here. And I also have to select the position range and the position from here. And then I have to tell it, okay, this is the column for which I'm looking the average for. All right. But Excel, whenever you just have to know that, okay, over here average ifs will be useful. And now as in when I type average ifs, it's going to highlight, okay, first it is asking from me to put in the range of which I want the average, and we want the average of the total monthly payout of these cells. So I highlight these cells, I freeze them using F4, comma. Next, okay, what is the criteria range? You see the criteria range one got highlighted here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So let's just feed in the criteria range one. I freeze it, comma. And the criteria that it will look for in the criteria range one is actuarial. Next, what's the range two? It's the position. I highlight it, press F4, comma. What am I looking for in that range? Manager. Bracket closed, enter. Akshita, do it in your Excel and tell me if you're getting the right answer. I'll be happy to go over it one more time.
Yes, ma'am, I got it.
All right. Over time, your goal with Excel should be to use as little mouse as possible and do everything using the keypad. So right now, when I'm doing average, I'm not using my mouse to go over this range like this. What I'm doing is Control Shift up, Shift down, bracket close, enter. All right, your goal should be to use as little mouse as possible. Initially, when we are right now discussing the basics, so I don't expect that from you, but over time, get in the habit of using as little mouse as possible. You can't be sitting there. Right now, what we are discussing over the data here has just 36, 38 entries, 24 entries. So it's possible for you to go, and when I'm showing you the formula right now, so I'm doing stuff like, okay, average, and then we select the range. Now think if there are 1 lakh entries, I want to sit here and calculate, highlight those ranges, those 1 lakh cells together. No, what you're going to do over time is you put in average using the cursor keys, get to 65,000, press Control Shift top button together. Shift one down, bracket closed, enter. Right now we are discussing formulas, and that is the reason I made a sweet little table so that we can work on and get a hang of those formulas. But also you need to learn the importance of Control Shift and what it can do for you. Who wants to sit here and highlight 1 lakh entries like this? It's not possible. So next time, today after class, whenever you get time, try and use as little mouse as possible. From the very beginning, get in the habit of using control to navigate from extreme left to extreme right, extreme top to extreme bottom, and use shift to select the data on the way. All right. I think we can take a 15-minute break now and we meet back at 1:30. All right. Also, if you get time before we start the next bit of our class, today's class, use Control Shift to navigate from here and there. Just set a goal for yourself. Okay, I want to highlight department position from top to bottom. How do I do that? I want to select employee code and 4 or 5 entries. How do I do that? All right, start using the keys Control and Shift. It's very important. You won't be able to sit and highlight data like this every now and then when you're dealing with lakhs and lakhs of entries. Excel is capable of storing 1 lakh for, no, 10 lakh 48,000 rows at a time. All right, so start using the keyboard and we'll meet back at 1:30.